Welcome everybody to this webinar that is being hosted by Suzanne Tempel, who lives in Rotterdam and is a mind mirror practitioner and on her way to becoming a coach trainer so that she'll be able to train people all over the world to be coaches. We've worked closely together. Her initial training was done with Andrea Groh, and then I had the pleasure of working with her last year and found her to be incredibly astute in this work, able to grasp the depth and breadth of it in ways that a lot of people don't, and attribute that to not only her intuitive abilities, but her heart connection with people, her ability to be on the same wavelength in a very empathetic way with people. And so it's really fitting that she's doing this program on people who have had brain damage, which is something fairly new to the mind mirror community. Usually we work with people who want meditation or consciousness training and are very much starting out with, if albeit stressed, brain waves, pretty much a normal footprint in the brain. And so we really look forward to this. And thank you so much, Suzanne, for being here. And would just like to turn this program right over to you and look forward to anything and everything you have to say.
Thank you, Judith. Very nice to see everyone. We're a small group, but I'm sure lots of people will see this online. The reason I started with people with brain injury is because they came to me. And the first was a young lady, and I wasn't sure because, as you said, this is not designed in any way, shape, or form for people to heal with brain injuries. This is about states of consciousness. But this was a very young lady, and she was in her 20s. And at some point in her life, things happened, and that led her to disconnection in her brain. Nobody, even medical society, didn't know what was happening with her. But within her brain, something disconnected. And that led to a sort of state of panic, a constant state of panic where her body cramped, and eventually led to the fact that she was in a fetal position for half a year, and she couldn't move. Every muscle was, strained to such a level that she was not able to move. Now, when I met her, she was in a wheelchair, so that part of her life was well gone. So she was in a wheelchair and was not able to have motorical problems and all sorts of things. Now, I met her mother, and then I met the lady herself, and I said, well, listen, I don't know whether I can help you, but I sure want to try, because all the medical doctors had given up on her. And they said, well, it's in your brain, but we can't find it. And she was sent to all sorts of therapists, and nothing helped, of course. And I said, well, I'm certainly going to want to try, and I'm not going to charge you because this is experimental for me as well. And I treated her, so to speak, on an intuitive basis for about 3-4 months. And the first few times she was, after we did a session, she was so incredibly ill. She vomited, she had migraines. So it didn't seem to work with her. Although I could see within my mind mirror that her brain pattern got to, to a normal state, not to that state of panic, because one side of her brain, the left part, was in a constant state of panic, and the right part was like a normal pattern. And although I could see on my screen that the hemisphere were balancing and she went into a normal pattern, somehow that got her so sick. Mainly, I believe, because her brain wasn't used to that anymore, and the body wasn't used to that anymore because of all the adrenaline and stuff going on. that she eventually said, I want to stop this because I'm afraid that I'm going to be in a fetal position again for half a year, and I don't want to, you know, go through that again. And I said, well, it's your decision, and if you, you know, you're rightfully, you're within your right to decide that you not want to do that anymore. So I stopped treating her. But then the next person came, and it was somebody who had a cerebral infarction, and he had his own business, and he still has, but he was eventually diagnosed that he couldn't work anymore. So when I met him, he was in a lawsuit with one of the his insurance company because they didn't want to pay, but he couldn't work anymore. He was tired. Everything costed a lot of energy. There was some paralysis on the left side. So there was seemed to be some permanent damage within his brain after that infarction. And so again, I said, well, I have no clue, you know, whether I can help you, but I want to try if you're willing. And I treated him on an intuitive basis mainly, so sort of trial and error way, in 8 months' time. And within 1 month, he told me that he could work again. Within 3 months, he said, listen, I don't want to tell the insurance company, but seemingly all of my problems are gone. He started, because he had within his left arm, there was some neurological problems. Sometimes there was no feeling anymore. They all came back. And so I advised him to, because prior to that he was a sportsman, he was doing Eastern sports. So I advised him to start meditating and doing the sports again. And to make a long story short, almost all of his problems went away. And there was very little I could see within his pattern that changed, but somehow the treatment worked. Now, I have made a presentation of 2 other people who showed significantly a change within their pattern. There were 3 others I worked with last year. One was a lady who was diagnosed with schizophrenia, wrongfully so, and her brain waves and the neurological pathways of her brain were altered by the medication she took for years. And the other one I want to discuss tonight, or with you today, is a man who had a tumor in his brain stem, and that was removed, the tumor, and that left damage in his brain. And both cases I want to discuss tonight because they're quite severe, and they showed some differences in the pattern as well. And they are the ones still working with me. The other ones I didn't treat anymore because, you know, the problems were resolved, at least to such a level that they said, well, I can work again, and my life is improved so much, so there's no need for me to come anymore. But the 2 I'm discussing tonight are still working with me. So I'm going to share my screen with you now. So I'm going to call her Lady L because I promised them that I would do this anonymous. Now, Lady L, in her 20s, she was a Raya yoga teacher, and she could remain in meditation for she said, sometimes up to 3 hours. In her 30s, she got a friend, a partner, and at this point she visited bars very frequently. She drank a lot of alcohol, and in 2005 she got complaints. She was very nervous. She couldn't focus anymore, and she was, by her physicist, referred to a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist looked at her problems and talked about her problems. And at one point, the psychiatrist asked her, "Do you hear voices?" And she said, "Yes." And at that point, there was no further conversation. Immediately, the diagnosis of schizophrenia was put on to her. I hope that that's the right phrase. So she got onto antipsychotics, and at one point she got really, really tired. There were a lot of side effects, so she got medication for the side effects as well. It Parkinson-like side effects, and her psychotics were raised, or the amount she got raised to double doses. And eventually, she discovered that the tiredness came from fiber, so that was also within the system. And she said, "Well, it got so severe with all the medication I got that at one point I was with my family in a restaurant and I was happy and I started laughing, and I could feel literally little electrical shocks within my brain." So she stopped taking the drugs in 2007, and this was not supported by her physicist or psychiatrist, but she stopped anyway. She said, "I'm not going to do this anymore." She stopped the therapy in the beginning of 2017 altogether. Now, by the time she came to me, that was June 2017, all the side effects of the drugs were gone, but she was unable to concentrate. She couldn't read a book at all. After 2 pages, she would, fall asleep. She said she couldn't meditate at this point. She had a really bad memory, and she was really, when you look at her and when you could feel her energy, it's really nervous energy. And she was also unable to feel or access any emotion. Something, would look nice or feel nice to touch, but real feelings and real emotions inside she was unable to feel. Now, before she came to me from 2015 to 2017, she explained, and this is actually the reason she came to me, she explained that she had a very stressful 2 years with her parents. Her parents died right after one another, and her father had a business, and she took over that business, and she had to do that by herself. So it was very, very stressful 2 years for her. And even though she wasn't taking the medication, the previous symptoms did not reoccur. So the psychiatrist put schizophrenia, or the diagnosis of schizophrenia, to latent, as they never go back on the diagnosis. So I started talking with her, and I found that the reason she was hearing voices is because she's a medium. Now, I never believed the horror stories about people being mediums and being diagnosed with schizophrenia until I met this lady, and then I knew that that was true. So after 2 months within sessions with me, I did six sessions in 2 months. Her concentration improved. she was able to focus again, she was able to meditate again, and she had an improved memory. And at that point, she was already able to read again, and she started to follow a course, actually. And that was something she was not able to do for I don't know how many years. After 6 months, and we were in 10 sessions then, she reported that she was able to feel again. She was able to recognize feelings. She was able to get emotional. And after 8 months, 12 sessions, so that's not really much sessions at all, she was getting faster insights. She had an improved intuition, and she told me that she had better access to the emotions, and she was finally processing the loss of her parents for the last 2 years. She said, well, it's quite a difficult time because I start to process a lot of things now, but because I'm able to do that, and because I'm able to focus and meditate and to read, this actually helps me to speed up the process of processing those things. Now, when I first measured her, these are the patterns when I measured her. As you can see, there's not much difference within the patterns. Her brain was sort of rigid to a point where there's absolutely no change at all. The conversation took about 4 minutes. This is an average, but I can tell you that at no point there was any change. At no point she signed flashes of alpha. At no point she showed a difference in beta. This was all pretty much the same. I'd never seen anything like it, a brain so rigid. And this is when she closed her eyes and in meditation. Now the meditation again was about 10 minutes. There was 10 minutes. The only thing that changed when she closed her eyes and when she went into meditation is that beta decreased a little, but the rest of the pattern was pretty much the same. And I was just astonished, really. And I thought, well, I've never seen a brain, that rigid. And I'm sure that the medication altered the neural path within her brain, allowing her not to access her subconscious anymore. But I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not sure whether I can help this lady because, this is quite severe. So after 8 months, she reported all sorts of things that was happening with her and good things. And I'm very happy that I can show you. Within the last session, you can really see that her pattern started to change. Now, it's not a stable pattern, but I was really happy to see that she was able to produce somewhat an alpha bridge to some sort. There's connection between beta and alpha now, and there was some movement within the pattern here as well. This is like on this side it's a normal pattern, and on this side I could see changes. I could see really, a lot of changes. She showed changes after 6 months, but not to this extent. And you can see here that sometimes she even, again, on this side is a normal pattern, and then the right side would flare into almost an evolved mind, and then this side would show on the left side on the screen. She would show again something that would, was not her normal pattern. On this side, she would show her normal pattern again. So at least something changed within the brain. The brain was not that rigid anymore, and although the pattern was not stable at all, I was very, very happy to see that after a few months that there was some changes, and that matched with her experience, able again to concentrate, able again to get insights, able again to access her emotions and process stored emotions, accessing theta, things of her childhood, crying about it. So I didn't think that was possible because she took the medications for so long. But so the goal was not here to train her into an awakened mind or whatever. The goal was to get her off these problems that she had with not able to focus, not able to read, not able to meditate, not able to feel. That was what I wanted to treat. And in the meantime, I measured her brain waves, and I could see that there was a difference. Now, I treated her completely intuitive because I had no clue where to start. So what I did was I started out with a self-training mode within the system, within the mind mirror. And after a few sessions, I realized that that was not going to do the trick. After 4 sessions, although she had some improvement, after 4 sessions, and I have to explain a little bit that when my clients, especially the clients who need to heal, are going to work on themselves, I'm going to my altered state as well, so they can, lift on my energy. And like Donna said, you can send healing while they're working. So I did that from day 1. But with session 4, I asked her to buy some binaural beats on the alpha range, and I asked her to start, working with her meditations at home to visualize herself healed. So in a form of self-healing with the binaural beats on her head with the headphones, and that helped quite a lot, really. And so I did my healing on her. She did her self-healing. We used the binaural beats and we used the system. And every time she would come to me, I would sense what was needed at that point. Now, we're not done with her treatment yet. As you can see, there's no really stable pattern. And I want to eventually get her to be able to work as a medium again and get her into a stable pattern where she has constant access to her subconscious, so an awakened mind pattern or anything else. But again, she's still in processing a lot of things, so she's not done. But I'm really looking forward to the future with her, because I feel that we can do a lot more with her. Now, the next one I want to discuss is I'm going to call him Mr. H. In 2009, he got a CVA, which is a kind of a stroke. And at that point, he was 49 years old. And they found that the stroke was because of a tumor in the same brainstem. And because it was too deep within the brain, they didn't want to operate. Now, 3 years later, in 2012, this client got the second stroke. So this time they decided that it was too dangerous to leave the tumor there, and they should operate. Now, they did the operation, and of course, because it was so deep and because it was in the brainstem, that left a lot of damage. So by the time he came to me, that was in July 2017, he had paralysis of the right eye muscle, this one. And he could move his eye from, you know, intern to midways, but he couldn't move it like that outwards. He had disrupted hearing. He could not, when there's loud noises and, you know, busy background, he could not filter out any noise. So he couldn't concentrate and focus on what he heard. He also suffered from paralyzed vocal cord, and that results in problems with speaking and swallowing. Furthermore, his left leg and his left arm have really severe motorical restraints, and he also had balancing problems, but not only because he was motoric restrained on the left side, but also because he had problems with the organ of balance, with, you know, within the inner ear. And one other thing is that his the regulation of his temperature was disrupted. So if you would measure his temperature on the left side and on the right side, it would differ in 1 degree centigrade. So after 2 months within my session, he reported to me that the problems with his organ of balance was gone. He did have some motorical problems that led sometimes to balance problems, but he said, well, it was actually right after the first session, the majority of the problems, the balance problems caused by the inner organ was completely gone by the second session. And he was more aware of the left side of his body, and he inclined to use it more. And this was only after 2 sessions. He reported that. So after 9 months, we did 9 sessions. So that's, you know, 1 session a month. He said, at one point he came in for a session, he said, "You're never going to believe this." And he said, well, the physician didn't believe me. I said, you know, explain to me what happened. And he says, before I came to you, I did everything with my right side, because my left side was, you know, not only motorically challenged, but, you know, paralyzed to such a degree that he even had problems with pushing the lift button with the left finger. So he, you know, basically all of what he did with his right hand. And he said, well, I was at home and I was drinking a can of Coke. And at that point, I emptied the can of Coke, but there was another one next to it, which was full, still not opened. And I was in a conversation, and the can flipped and started rolling off the table. And he said, within a reflex, I grabbed the can, I caught it with my left hand. And he said, that's so incredibly unusual. I haven't been able to do that since my operation. And he said, I didn't know what happened. He said, not only did I catch the can, but the reflex was not with the right hand, but with the left hand. And he was so astonished. And he talked to his physician about that. And his physician said, oh, you were probably able to do that anyway with your left hand. You just never tried. So he said, but I know that I wasn't able to do that. I know. And so the reflexes improved considerably. He started to use his left side of his body even more, consciously, but also unconsciously. And he also found that he got less problems in the throat area with swallowing and talking. So there was a lot of neurological issues that improved tremendously. And he also said that overall my stamina improved. Again, with the 2 stroke patients, they also reported that they weren't as tired anymore in the afternoon. They had more stamina, they had more energy during the day to do whatever they needed to do. Now, this client, although you couldn't really see the damage, the real damage that was caused, you could see that there was a huge disbalance between the 2 hemispheres. And you could see that also within the data. Now, after 9 months, there was a huge difference within the hemispheres. So, although I'm not sure if this client will be able to regain access to the full body control he once had. But again, I never expected the results we now have. So he wants to continue because he's very happy. Not only did improve his bodily and neurological conditions, but he's also a happier man at this point because he's got more energy and he's able to enjoy life more.
That's an amazing difference, Suzanne. What did you do with this client? How did you treat him?
Same thing. When he would work on himself, I would go to multi-state, give healing, so he could use my vibration to lift on, so to speak. And we did with him. I did primarily and mainly system training. Hemisphere balancing and alpha stimulation. We didn't do meditation, no meditation to go into the subconscious or anything. I thought I just want to, my first goal is to balance those hemispheres and send healing. And I want him, because I told him, all my clients, by the way, get homework. So they have to work on themselves at home as well. So all of them, I gave self-healing instructions. And this guy was very, very, after the first session, he found that he had so much improvement already that he was very fanatic with his homework. And he did homework as in healing, self-healing. And again, with this client, after 6 sessions, I got him on binaural beats. Again, alpha stimulation, again with this client, alpha stimulation, while doing his homework. And gradually going from 1 minute to 2 minutes to 3 minutes to 4 minutes. And this client is not on 40 minutes yet. He's on 15 minutes of binaural beats while training.
You say 15?
15.
Did he use the Mind Mirror Self-Training program at all?
Yes, but only with in my sessions, not at home. Yeah.
So you had him use what? The Awakened Mind or the Alpha Synchrony or what?
No, hemisphere balancing with alpha, with the Awakened Mind sometimes, because that's beta reduction and alpha. That's mostly concentrating on the beta and the alpha. Beta reduction, Awakened Mind training. Depends really on what I saw when I hooked them up. And sometimes I would think, okay, let's do some beta reduction, and other times I would think something else.
So you're kind of shaping him then, shaping his brainwaves in a way according to where he was at the moment. You know,
Yeah.
those are the preliminary self-training programs for people who have enormous amounts of stress. I asked Steve Clark to put those in there so people could work toward the meditation or the awakened mind pattern in stages, you know, if they needed to work on a specific area. But I never dreamed it would end up having such incredibly wonderful uses like that. It's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah. Yes, it's actually precisely that. It's shaping his pattern to at what he at that point needs. Because you have to remember, those clients come to me for one session. We do one session of self-training, but then he goes away with the other client as well, and they have to do sessions at home without the mind mirror. So I need to know at that point. It's the problem. The problem with my session is not that they're training. The problem is that I need to know what they should do for the next month. So and after a month,
How
sorry?
long were you able? How long? So because the one person couldn't do very long at a time. I guess it's him, the binaural beats. How long were you able to keep him on the self-training program at a time? How much could he tolerate?
20 minutes. I never do more than 20 minutes with clients. Yeah.
That's fairly normal.
Yeah.
What sort of homework were they doing? Were they using the binaural beats at home, or were they doing something else?
They both started on the binaural beats, but only when I asked them to. So that was not the first 4 sessions. I used my intuition with both of them to say, okay, now when you go home, 1 month I would say use the binaural beats, but only 3 times, and they have to practice 5 times a week. Only 3 times you use the binaural beats. With the lady, I specifically asked her to start when she started. I asked her to start to listen to the binaural beats within the first week. Day 1, 1 minute. Day 2, 2 minutes. Day 3, 3 minutes. Day 4, 4 minutes. Up until 7. And then the next week, I would say within that month, I would say next week, the second week you're at home, use 7 minutes for 7 days. So it would gradually, build. And they, like I said, they all got homework. And the homework is not the binaural beats. The homework is that they do some self-healing visualizations. So pretty much what Joe Dispenza asks people to do: close your eyes, visualize yourself healed. With the guy with the paralysis on the left side, I specifically asked him to concentrate and to really visualize and use all of his senses to imagine that there are little electrical impulses in his brain going down, healing the vocal cords, healing the eye, and then moving down, healing the arm. So, and I would ask him to visualize with all his senses, so essentialize with all his senses, that he would, because I asked him, what do you like to do? And he said, I'd like to tennis. And I said, okay, visualize yourself tennising for 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the evening, and don't stop until you actually have been there, like in a daydream, and you've actually seen yourself moving your hand, walking, running. Those exercises I would give them.
Fantastic.
So it's using the mind mirror, but in a sort of creative way. Yeah. And for me, it was just a checking tool whether what I gave them worked. And with the brainwaves of the lady, you could actually see that her brain patterns were starting to get flexible, not that rigid. And with him, you could really see the difference between the balancing of the hemispheres, and you could really see that there's an alpha bridge popping up. Yeah. So every month I would check whatever I told them, did that work? And what would be the next step to show a pattern that, you know, is conducive for their situation.
I would think with the new pattern editor that we have, you could more specifically shape the brainwaves in these situations, more than just the self-training. But I'm surprised that you got this much change with so little of the brainwave training, because the for just about everything, schizophrenia and strokes and etc., you're looking at 20 sessions up to 50 sessions, sometimes 3 sessions a week for several weeks, and then 1 week for months, after that. So the fact that you're getting change this quickly with so few EEG sessions, training sessions, is amazing.
This is because I'm not primarily using the EEG.
Yeah.
It's just a part of the whole process.
Yeah.
A very significant part, but it's I use everything I know about energy healing into a package, and this is just one aspect of it.
Yeah. And I know personally, not having done it myself, but having seen other clinicians using that visualization of trying to use, in fact, actually, if a person can't use the left side, they pad the right side, or tie it down or do something with the right side, so the person has to actually think about using the left side over and over again, whether they can move it or not. And that is the same as what you were saying, as having the person visualize the healing going to the side that needed to be healed.
Yeah.
So that that's a brilliant idea.
Because I'm using the concept that the brain doesn't know the difference between real and not real.
Exactly.
And so again, everything I know about energy healing is combined in this package. And I believe that if you were just using one aspect, that would work as well, but it would take much longer in order to get there. And once you know, or creatively or intuitively start to work with the whole package and say, okay, now this is needed, and how we need that, and now we need to alter a bit and adjust the whatever, and each time I check with the EEG whether what I did had the effect I wanted, you can move forward very, very quickly. And like I said, these clients only come to me once a month, because I told them it's going to be a very long phase. And if you come each week, that's going to be very costly, because there's no insurance company that will pay for this.
Yeah, same here.
Which is a shame, actually, because there's no other therapist with the lady and with this man who had the same results in the same amount of time.
Yes. I understood that she was still on her medication while you were doing all of the treatment? Or she...
No, otherwise I would never have treated her. No, she was off the medication. Okay. Yeah. I don't treat people with antipsychotics while they're using it. No.
Yeah. We treated one woman not with neurofeedback, sort of as a home intervention, and had her live with us for a month while she was going through a so-called schizophrenic break. We took her off all the medication and basically sat with her and guided her until she finally came back around, and Donna took her actually to a shaman in Mexico who cleared, he said she had a lot of negative sort of energy beings around her, and he cleared all of those, and she began to actually recover faster after that. So it was very interesting. Now she still hears voices, but she's totally functional and back to her normal work, and has a new boyfriend, thinking about getting married. So, it's, I really don't believe that people are hearing voices, they're schizophrenic. I think that's totally a bogus diagnosis. I know a lot of people hear voices for various reasons, that have nothing to do with schizophrenia.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. Of course, because I have schizophrenia within my family. My grandfather had that, and somebody within my family has that. So I know that there are cases, or probably cases where there's really a disorder, but I believe that a lot of the cases are just misdiagnosed.
Yeah. I think if people are hearing voices, and particularly sometimes the voices are very helpful, sometimes not. But usually if they're not, then you need to deal with the underlying emotional issues that may be involved with that. But just because you're hearing voices, like you say, you may be a medium, you may be hearing good information. You have to kind of check it out and see what's happening.
Yeah, but see, this is the problem within our medical system. The fact that there are people who are mediums is not recognized at all.
Exactly.
So basically, every medium coming to a psychiatrist telling them that they talk to, people without a body, would probably be restrained and get medication. Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, the workshop we did in Hawaii with EFT was an attempt to train people into hearing their inner guides, getting messages one way or another, whether it was actually hearing something, having a gut level feeling, a body sensation, something along those lines. So it was very interesting. And we did see some before and after changes in the brainwave patterns after a week of people going through these practices.
Oh, I would imagine. Absolutely. I always say to people that, mediumistic training or psychic training, for that matter, has the same profound effect as meditation, because you're reducing your beta brainwaves and you're, stimulating alpha to go to the subconscious where the spirit world is working with you.
I feel, and I think Judith agrees with me, that the awakened mind pattern is actually what we would consider a normal, healthy pattern. It's what everybody should have.
Absolutely.
They grew up in a good, healthy environment, a good, healthy, emotional environment.
Sure,
Yeah.
and I really see this awakened mind pattern as a multi-level orientation to different kinds of perception, so that, of course, beta being the intellect and alpha being the sensory, but also enhanced when intuition is present and greatly amplified. And theta somehow also, like alpha, related to the heart. And then as you go down in the frequencies, your attunement to subtle energies also increases. By the time you are amplifying delta, well, you're in the full-on psychic realm. And I really like the way that you worked with this client, Mr. H, on all those different levels. So here you are in your delta, your own theta, your own awakened mind, helping him connect everything up. And I wonder, one question I have for you is, could he feel your energy as you were working on him or healing him or just holding the space or whatever it was that you were doing in your practice? Did his subtle energy awareness increase?
this is not a medium, Mr. H. Most of my clients have no clients like this. I have to say, not most of my clients, but clients like this have no knowledge of energy whatsoever. So what they know is what I explain to them. But most of those clients report that they find it much easier to go to an altered state when they're with me than at home. So yes, he feels it, but he's not. His knowledge is not such that he can describe what's happening.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. So another question that I had has to do with the binaural beats. I don't know if it's appropriate or if you want to say who was the creator of these binaural beats.
Sure. I use HemiSync.
Excellent. I will report that to them this weekend. I'm attending a leadership seminar in Virginia for the next few days where the report is, I'm making a report, I'm working on it right now, a PowerPoint, to show the board members and hopefully some serious contributors how profound, I mean, really all the way up to 100 hertz in an awakened mind and an involved mind patterns all the way up. These not just HemiSync, but also the SAM binaural beats are people growing more coherent. Of course, in 5 days worth of training, everybody's gonna get better brainwave patterns too, but these people were getting more gamma synchrony, way more evolved mind patterns, just beautiful advances. And the guy you remind me with this Mr. H client, the guy that writes the meditations, no longer the HemiSync, but the SAM meditation, spatial angle modulation for the Monroe Institute, has this unbelievable story. I'm going to write about it in Eureka Times pretty soon, where he was in a wreck, I don't remember, a car or a motorcycle, but it was so profound that he was paralyzed from the head down, if I remember correctly, but his brain was completely crushed. I mean, his face, his head, just horrible, traumatic brain injury. And he was in a hospital bed for months with zero improvement. And one day someone brought in a HemiSync tape and he didn't know anything about this stuff, and put headphones on his head, and his eyes began to move and he started to come back to consciousness. And so people kept putting more and more tapes on him, and he completely regained the doctors were utterly astonished and could not even believe it. Of course, they didn't attribute it to HemiSync because they didn't understand that.
Yeah.
But the guy became a HemiSync trainer, creator of the binaural beats meditation, and has dedicated his life to that, and is working now with veterans with PTSD using these binaural beats. I mean, they're so incredibly powerful.
Yeah. I find them very helpful, but I always start with level 10, so the easiest level, and none of my clients really goes any further than 9 or 8, because it's the goal is not to train them through HemiSync. The goal is to have HemiSync support what we do. And this is also why I increase very gradually the amount of minutes they listen to it. Because I want them to use the visualization and use whatever capacity they have to alter their brainwaves supported by HemiSync, but I don't want HemiSync to alter their brainwaves, because I want them to understand how it works, because then they can work at home with it.
Yes, and actually that was my third question. So what were either of these clients able to create landmarks so that they could feel the alpha and remember what it felt like and try to reproduce it?
Yeah.
So that's a wonderful use for the mind mirror, not just to track how they're doing, and of course the statistics as well, but to see if they're reproducing the alpha that you're using in the self-training program to help their alpha along.
I have a question about, I'm just wondering, a sort of a comparison of iAwake with HemiSync. Judith, do you have any thoughts on that?
Not really. I've used both of them and found them both to be extremely helpful. Where I used them was really, frankly, to test them out to see if they worked.
Right.
And I find that HemiSync is the one that's, excuse my grandfather clock. HemiSync is going to take you to altered states very deliberately by orchestrating the frequencies, different frequencies, mostly to try to get symmetry and brain coherence, but they're going to try to shift your state of consciousness. I mean, of course, there are some recordings that don't do that at all, that are just about, you know, peace and relaxation, or, you know, better dreaming or stuff like that. But that's the main difference, is that the Monroe Institute is interested in helping people really, I don't want to say climb the ladder of consciousness, but if I wanted to find more words, I guess I would just say ride the wave up into gamma, into that cosmic ocean, and see what's there, have all kinds of extraordinary experiences. Where, as far as I can tell, from a admittedly limited study, iAwake is really about just giving you a more direct experience of alpha or theta, high theta, mid theta, low theta, delta. They do have that profound meditation. And I mean, I listened to a 7-minute heart coherence tape of theirs, recording of theirs, and it was only 7 minutes, and I got to a 98% statistic on training level 5 for the awakened mind. Now, admittedly, there was some beautiful music, and I was resonating with the beauty of the music, so that definitely was a factor. But so yeah, I think they're more about health and wellness, where Monroe is more about explorations of consciousness. But they're both effective. Certainly, they're the biggies in the business.
Yeah. Well, Monroe's certainly been around for a long time, so
yeah,
they've had a lot of time to experiment with things.
Yeah. So Suzanne, brilliant. This is brilliant that you had the idea to do that for both of these clients.
Yeah, and for the other 2 stroke clients as well. Unfortunately, now on hindsight, I believe I could have helped the young lady as well, but she chose to stop. Like I said, that's her right, within her right to do so. But now on hindsight, I regret a little bit that she came to me that early, and not as a 2nd or 3rd or 4th client, because I would have, done things differently. And as she's such a young lady, she has such things to gain from it, because she's still, hopefully, she's still around for such a long time. She was only in her 20s. So, but we all have our paths, so it's probably for a reason.
What do you think put you on this path? Because I get the distinct feeling you're going to get more clients like this.
Oh, I do too. I don't believe in coincidences. I don't know what set me on this path. Somehow the clients seem to come to me, although I'm not advertising for brain injuries or brains that are altered because of chemicals or whatever. But they seem to find me. So somehow they are guided to me. Yeah.
Well, I think it's just really maybe you're the conduit for the mind mirror community, because we have this concern always about maybe nobody does but me, but I have a concern because we're not licensed neurofeedback people who are insured and all that stuff. And so,
That's true.
so we're, as Anna Wise said, we're educators, we're consciousness trainers, we're meditation teachers, all those things that don't need to be licensed. And so I have often felt that even though with hypnosis and energy healing techniques and lots of other things, that were I to be in private practice rather than working on this other stuff I do, that I could help those people, but have always had a kind of a not my path. And so I think that this presentation of yours, every practitioner trainee is going to watch it because it's part of their homework. And I think that that we should let other mind mirror practitioners know what you've done here. And I think that really you're very much within the realm still of educators, consciousness trainers, meditation teachers. You're not making direct changes on the brain,
No.
which would get you into the need for licensing. And it's just a
No.
really unique combination of things that you're using, working on all the different levels that the brain can respond to so quickly. I mean, this is, I think, possibly a whole new path for the mind mirror community.
I think as long as we don't diagnose anything for the person and don't prescribe anything for the person, we're kind of skating thin ice there. But on the other hand, if we don't follow that kind of diagnostic prescription kind of path, and also if we simply explain to the person that this is about stress management and relaxation and just balancing your brain waves so that they're more healthy, it's an educational process, and that we're not prescribing any treatment for you, but this may be helpful. If we can kind of couch it around those words there, we're still kind of in the ballpark of being educators and not doing clinical EEG where you would need all that licensing.
This is exactly what I always tell them when they come to me, that I don't have a medical background. I'm not diagnosing. I am very strict about contraindications. So if they use any drugs, prescribed or non-prescribed, I'm not going to treat them. And I'm very clear about the fact that I'm using all sorts of energy healing within that package to help them heal themselves. So I emphasize that very much, that I'm not the one, healing or altering brainwaves in any way, shape, or form. I'm just helping them and guiding them to help themselves. And as long as you stay in that area, you're in the realm of consciousness treatment or consciousness healing, or however you want to call it.
Yeah, I think Donna is very much in the same sort of position, being a traditional naturopath, in that she's not prescribing anything. If people come, from a medical, from a doctor with a prescription and so on, she's just helping them to find ways to augment their healing process, and not prescribing anything for them. So, we're kind of in the same position. I think Donna can actually work in the same way you do, so that we can trade back and forth, doing some of the biofeedback, neurofeedback, and then using some of the other healing modalities as you do. So that might be an interesting way to go. One that, as Judith says, I've often shied away from, any sort of medical condition and, just, referred them out to somebody else. But I think, you're showing us that there are other possibilities here. And still staying within the context or framework of what we've been doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you have to remember that all the clients I'm treating, the one with the hematoma, the tumor, the client with the schizophrenia, but also the two other ones, the medical society told them that there was nothing more they could do for them in order to improve their position and improve their condition.
Yeah.
So they were basically done in
Yeah.
the normal system. They had nothing left to lose.
I just, as an aside, I just read a recent article, some research they've been doing with people who hear voices, not necessarily diagnosed as schizophrenic, but having troubling voices that, were not going away. And they put them in fMRIs and used neurofeedback with the fMRI system, which is way beyond our capabilities.
Yeah.
But they identified the particular area of the brain with the fMRI that was producing the voices. And then they specifically trained with the neurofeedback. They said they had, I don't know, they didn't explain exactly what it was, but some sort of rocket ship that as they would move the rocket ship, it would activate or deactivate that particular area of the brain, and were able within a few sessions to train the people so they're no longer hearing the voices. So, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be able to do the same thing by balancing their brain waves,
Absolutely.
even though we're not targeting something specific.
No, for me, this is very important that we're not altering, one spot or the other, or
Right, exactly.
we're treating the brain as a whole.
Yeah.
Because I'm a firm believer that we're consciousness working through the body, and therefore we can alter bits and pieces, but I believe that the consciousness that we are is intelligent enough when we are working with the consciousness to work on the whole brain.
Yes.
And heal itself,
my cat is trying to find her favorite spot, which has now got something on it. So.
Oh, she doesn't like that. No.
But she's listening to me, at least temporarily.
Well, that's good, because cats usually have a butler, whereas
They have
dogs
pretty much their mind of their own. So.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to share with us, Suzanne, about these clients, or just the idea in general of mind mirror people being open to and capable of working with people other than those seeking particular awakened mind, evolved mind, gamma synchrony patterns?
Well, yes, to me, the mind mirror is a tool. And, your fantasy or the lack of fantasy is where you limit yourself. And for me, any way I can use the mind mirror when I see fit, I will use it. So probably in the near future, there will be some other aspect of dealing with clients that I will use the mind mirror with, because to me it's a very profound tool, and I won't be limited to, a specific goal. You can use it for any goal you wish, basically.
And more so all the time, I might add, because this new pattern editor that Gary mentioned, I haven't even told this to Gary yet, but there's a new aspect in it, in that I asked Steve Clark to be able to, if he could find ways for us to get pattern rewards for the full range of frequencies up to 100 hertz. And I haven't even gone in and tested it yet, but Steve has done that. Steve Clark has done that for us. So
we have a new download, I assume, that I haven't downloaded yet.
That's it. And it could be buggy. I'm not even sure. I haven't even tested it, but at least the very first run of it is up there now, and there's a new option there for in the Mind Mirror options, and so this is really becoming extraordinary that we have this array of tools, as you say, Suzanne. I mean, it's of course we can guide people through meditation, and actually I wonder if you're going to ultimately use some guided visualization with either of these clients to see if they can.
Probably not.
Probably not, just straight.
Probably not.
Okay, sculpting. Stay with sculpting.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Because the problem with them is not so much that there's stuff to be resolved within the theta. It's not so much that they need to go into their subconscious in order to be free of energy that's still there, or emotions or memories or whatever. They have a different problem, which is that their brain is damaged in one way or another.
yes.
So for me, the guided meditations, that's not a plus in this case.
Yes, but so we have that as a tool. We have the self-training program, which you've used to such wonderful effect, even to the extent of the preliminary self-training screens. And then now we're going up to a whole 100 hertz where people can design their own patterns. So we have this frontier kind of facility with this new pattern editor, and it just gets more exciting all the time. And my hope, I think all of us hope, that we will just continue to see what practitioners are capable of coming up with for the benefit of everyone, self-trainers as well.
Now, Judith, on this being able to train up to 100 hertz, do we need a special 100 hertz harness for that?
Nope, you've already got 100 hertz in your harness.
All of them?
Yep, all the way up. And the pattern editor now is going to go from all the way up to 100 hertz, so you can change the shape. And he had to do that in order to be able to get pattern statistics for 100 hertz.
Right.
He coded it in through the pattern editor. So so these Monroe Institute studies, I'm telling you, people are producing the most. I don't even know how it's happening. I don't even understand how it's possible, because these high frequencies are filtered. Steve had to filter the high frequencies, because otherwise you'd be getting, without the high frequency artifact filter ticked, you'd be getting patterns that look like this, and then they would be dribbling down into the frequencies of beta, low beta. So so he's got filters on it. So how it's even possible for the mind mirror, for people who are producing these, having these extraordinary experiences, to be producing a full-blown awakened mind all the way up to 100 hertz, with the alpha bridges still at 10.5, but the whole upside is just this beautiful top. Or in some people I've seen of an evolved mind top all the way up to 100 hertz.
So are we seeing a reduction in the beta, say from 25 to 35, and then an expansion above 40?
No, it's all the way. It's like the top, the evolved, so the awakened mind, if it's here for the 15 to 44 hertz, for the gamma 100, I mean, it's the same exact thing. It's still starting at 15, but it's going all the way up to 100. Same exact.
So we're getting.
Well, it's the head. The head is still in place, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's an integrated gamma.
It's integrated gamma.
Now, how is he filtering out any muscle artifact? Because when you start getting up to above 40 hertz, or even at 40 hertz, you're looking at muscle artifact.
Yeah.
Gamma.
Well, we're using the USB emissions filter and unplugging, and we're just we're not having SEMG. Well, these people are lying down in anti-gravity chairs with neck pillows,
Right.
so they're profoundly relaxed.
Right.
And then they're using headphones. But yeah, it's amazing that the pattern is extended. But on the other hand, it's not amazing that it's extended all the way up. I had no idea what it was going to look like. That was always a big question for me, because I thought that the evolved mind, that what we would see as an evolved mind in the lower frequencies, and then we would see an evolved mind on top of it all the way up, because I thought we would see a harmonic. It never dawned on me that we would see the evolved mind all the way up to 100 hertz. But that's what it is. I mean, some of this, I put stuff in pictures in books. I have to correct them now. It was a hypothesis before, but now we're actually seeing it. So, I mean, this mind mirror. Wow, who knew? I guess Max K knew. I guess Anna, on some level, anticipated. But just thank you, Suzanne, for showing us what, I don't want to say the least of these, but the people most in need, that it can serve even them. And I'm going to immediately notify Steve Clark and TMI about your use of HemiSync as well. So.
And Donna's currently working. Well, we just had a woman come in today who'd had a TBI, and it basically affected her memory more than anything. No muscle involvement at all, but now she's working with another fellow who's had a very severe stroke and has been bedridden for years. And she was going over and attempting to help him, but it hadn't occurred to us to try to use the mind mirror.
Please do, because it works.
Or HemiSync. I'm thinking, just using HemiSync on this fellow. As you were saying, just,
But use it as an integrated package. So, because I know Donna is using healing as well, right?
Yes.
So she can use that healing while he's listening to it, and while he's projecting himself into this healing.
Definitely.
That will,
The combination of the three in unison. Both she and Carol have been working with him, but more in terms of just mechanical massage because of the fact that he's so bedridden. But I'll talk to her about this, and then she can watch this when she gets back. Roxana puts it back up again.
Let me know how that works. If she wants to know anything, she can contact me.
Okay, great.
And then there's an upcoming conversation in Paris. Suzanne and I are going to share a room in our hotel.
Okay.
And, so
are you on the same hotel that we're in?
No, I'm in a cheaper hotel because I'm not a presenter. Okay. But very close to yours.
Okay, great. We'll have to get together for numerous conversations here.
Great. Like looking forward to it.
Suzanne, thank you once again for this most excellent and thought-provoking presentation. And more than thought-provoking, really path-finding, way-showing presentation today. Thank you, and we hope we'll see you again soon with lots of more information and good ideas.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Hope to see you all very soon.